WrstlXtra 100th episode, and today we are talking about the best of Black wrestling, and of course, we've got some guests to do so with us. We will be back in just a second. This is WrstlXtra.
Yo, this is WrstlXtra 100, or as the Americans would say, 100. Let's go. Yo, I am your boy A Dazzle, as always, joined by my tag team partner Mex, the WrestleManiac. And yes, we have two guests, very familiar faces to the show, of course. Gerard Bonner and man like NK.
Yes.
Wrestling's podcast as well. I'll go to you first, Gerard. As always, you join us almost like once a month. Give us your side of things. Today, we'll be doing like a year review of 2022 Black wrestling in general, how we've seen it and stuff like that. Give me your very, very quick, simple synopsis of how you've seen Black wrestling in 2022.
Well, I think it's been a great year for Black wrestling. I really, really do. From the majors like WWE and AEW to what's going on in the independent scene, and then what's happening internationally as well. It's a very, very special time. We're living in historic times, and I hope that we can really appreciate what's happening here.
Yeah. Of course, NK from Wrestling's former rival, now friends. This is kind of like I don't even know what to compare it to. Like you have those rivalries in wrestling where it's almost like Sheamus and
Cesaro or McIntyre.
Yeah. It's fights in the pub. It's different opinions. Now we're on the same bar. See what I did there?
Yeah.
Give me your you watch more than just obviously Black wrestling. You've got a very widespread knowledge of also Japanese wrestling and stuff like that. Give me your synopsis quickly on 2022 with Black wrestling. I've kind of got a feeling you're going to answer this question a little later though, so I won't ask it. I was going to say, like, is there anyone within Japan or within the New Japan sphere Black wrestlers? But I'll get to that later. But just
I have an answer
of Black wrestling in 2022.
It's been good, and you know what? I've had the privilege of seeing a lot of the guys that we may or may not talk about live. Big up Roy Johnson's Everything Pattern 8,000 Independence this year as well. We got to see the likes of Michael Oku. There's a lot of upcoming guys that we got to see like at the Hustle shows, like Big Up Remy. There's a lot of, I've got to see things not only from like the big companies, but also like in the UK independent scene. And I've even seen a couple guys from the US come over. So it's been a very eye-opening year. There's a lot of talent out there on all platforms. So man, I'm excited to talk about some of these guys and just really wave the flag for them because they deserve it. They've put it on, and they really deserve to be spotlighted and highlighted.
Nice. And your point kind of brings me nicely actually to ask the Mex a question, bring him in as well. Mex, obviously we've seen 2022 has kind of been the opening for, COVID has disappeared now and everyone's kind of back in arenas and stadiums and whatever else and, school halls, gyms and all the rest of it to watch these wrestling shows. Of course, now you being officially part of the Wrestling's guys, you've moved around, we've done quite a bit and seen a few shows. Like, what's been the highlight for you in respect to that type of thing, that side of the scene?
I mean, I don't mean to take it in a negative, but one thing that's kind of always still standing out to me is that we are not in the crowds.
Right. Go for it.
So as much as we are celebrating, our superstars are making it onto these main stages and even onto the smaller stages and are still doing great things and making ripples with their name and stuff. within the crowds, I still want to see more of us. Like, I could really say this year that, you know, between Wrestlings and maybe other groups of friends, our friendship groups, we've made the conscious effort to bring people to shows we're going to. Like, we're not just going as our own collective. We are telling our friends this is happening and come through, and whatever the case is, which has helped, and it's helping to reignite some people's love for wrestling and stuff like that. But maybe it's a British struggle. Maybe Gerard, you'll be able to talk about you guys and what happens in the States, but to get more of the black faces, you know, black people into these spaces to support is definitely still, I guess, the ongoing fight we're fighting here.
For real. And you know, to go to Gerard actually about that same thing. Now we've seen this year, you know, we've seen the likes of Battle Slam come through. We saw Terminus earlier in the year. And it's not new that we're having promotions coming through owned and run by black people. But I think with those two that I just named, these are two companies that were started by people who are, you know, superstars that are known, that are active. Probably gave them a little bit, you know, bit of a head start, I guess, in promotion wise and all the rest of it. How have you found it? Obviously, you know, of course, you're commentating for Battle Slam. How have you found it within that arena? Being around those guys, seeing how they have to work things. Do you see it differently to when you're probably with Southern Honor Wrestling, for example, or other companies that you've been around or worked with?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. To go to Mex's point, certainly in the States, we show up. We show up in significant numbers at events. Certainly if there are local events or if there are TV tapings or things like that, we're going to show up. You know, when it comes to watching companies being run, I do think what's interesting, as you mentioned, Battle Slam and Terminus, I think the connections alone that they have had to multiple spaces have made it easier for them to bring in larger names. Not just that, but it's also created a platform for people who have not been as known to become known. And so it's been, I think, a big win in terms of black wrestling specifically, with both Terminus and Battle Slam being on Fight TV, which is a major outlet that really the world can see. It creates a really, really special platform for African-American wrestlers and others to be able to apply their craft, which is super important for everybody involved.
Most definitely. And how have you seen any type of change? Now we've talked about the wrestlers, we've talked about the companies. Now let's talk about what you do specifically in terms of commentary. We don't see a lot of those. Obviously, we've now seen Booker T back on NXT. Byron Saxton's been moved back to backstage after another table. What is it like in what has it been like for you in the commentary scene, and you know, doing announcing, probably backstage interviews, stuff like that? What has it been for you?
It's been an amazing experience for me. One of the things that I've learned is, and it's kind of a thing for us as people of color anyway, you always have to be at the top of your game. Like you can never afford to be caught slipping. So I spend a lot of time preparing for shows, et cetera, so that when I'm put on in a space, nobody's even thinking about me as the black commentator. They're thinking this guy is good. You know, and it just happens to be that he's black. So the good thing for me is I've been able to work in multiple promotions, you know, that it hasn't been about me being black. It's been about me being good, thankfully. And I think that is a great thing, obviously, for our African-American wrestlers, and really all wrestlers in general. They want their stories told well. And if their stories can be told well, they have great respect. I didn't realize, certainly in the independent world, just how the bar is so different when it comes to commentary, because I'm kind of like in my lane and I'm just rocking with it. But, you know, everybody doesn't view it as essential and as necessary as some other folks do. So for me, it's about creating a bar that is so high that nobody asks, what does this guy look like? They're just like, he's really, really good. Or at least that's what I hope they say.
Well, I've heard them say. I'm joking.
Well, hey, hey.
We see Muscle Man Malcolm has jumped in, said hi. I don't know if he's still with us. But he also leads me on to asking NK and Mex this question as well. Actually, I've spoken to Gerard about the commentary side. Now, you guys have obviously been working really hard with the YouTube stuff, putting out things, content creating. You've got different shows, different styles of shows, Wrestling's House, the tier rankings coming back, all that kind of stuff. And also, I've seen you guys have been a lot more involved with promotions as well and putting on things and putting on events. Mex, you mentioned events, and you guys have put on like gaming events and stuff like that. Like, has 2022 kind of opened the door for that kind of thing? And what can we expect, or have you got any ideas as to what you're going to do next year?
So I'll say for me personally, like our slogan says, "By the man them, for the man them," but it's also not just for like the wrestling fans, but like those, like I feel like we've been able as wrestlings to like bring people in to the wrestling culture, like bring people from Black culture into wrestling culture. I feel like merging those two worlds has been like a mission statement of us for a long period of time, and we finally seen like we finally take the initial steps to do that with like the gaming events that we've done, with even the wrestling shows that we've hosted, and a lot of the feedback is like from even people outside of wrestling. Like, I didn't know like the man them are part of wrestling. I didn't know like there's a community of people who are like us, because you know there's the stigma about nerd culture, and it applies to wrestling culture as well. About the typical fans, and sometimes the stereotypes do hold some weight. let's not lie. Sometimes you go to the shows and you see that the characters that you would assume would be at these shows, but like then there's people like us, and then and we're trying to bridge that gap. We're trying to make a space where, do you know what, if somebody necessarily isn't the biggest fan of wrestling, but just wants to go out and have a good time, and get into something new, I think we've provided not only an online platform, but like physical spaces where that merging of two worlds is possible. So I feel like that's like a very that's something like I'm personally very proud of, and I feel like the group are very proud of.
Yeah, it's just all about making it accessible, making it fun. We've got our diehards, and those are the guys that tune into the podcast every week. But even from next year, there's going to be a lot of content that is not based on you have to be watching every single week, and it's just to make it accessible. Wrestling's House, you're just going to react to what you see, like Gogglebox. That's ultimately what it was. And the other shows, like we said, tier ranking, who doesn't like to see a good old debate on who is like the first episode of tier ranking that's coming out next week is going to be who's going to dethrone Roman Reigns. So all kinds of stuff. And then like you said, we're bridging the gap with WWE 2K events. People play the 2K games, they don't even necessarily watch the product. So there's that. We're literally in discussions now about having a wrestlings versus wrestlers football match sometime next year. So that's and we don't want to kind of say too much, but the likes of Will Ospreay's already thrown his name in the hat for wanting to play in that match. So we're talking about kind of logistics about it this weekend. So there's a lot coming, and it's just the fun, and anyone can be part of this. And I think that's especially from our point of view, as this is guarded somewhat. This isn't our sport. Like just making it, coming in here and then inviting other people. Hey, come over here. Like even if you don't watch every week, this is what we do. Do you remember this from back in the day, or whatever the case is? So something for everyone.
And just one more thing to add as well, even with the hardcore fans, I remember we went to Royal Quest, the New Japan show, and it was, first of all, it was nice to see a lot of brothers and sisters at the show. It was actually like raw, like. But second of all, it's like when we met up with these people, like we just naturally, like as Black people, we know, like once you see another Black person in the room, you just naturally. And I remember, like in the second night, like we just hung out with a bunch of different people, and then we just all gravitated towards each other, and like we were like our own little section. And I just feel like moments like that are priceless. Like just seeing like some of your own in the community, and just that bond that we have as people. And even the black wrestlers that we've interviewed saying that, yo, like I felt seen. Like people, black wrestlers have come to us and been like, yo, seeing you guys in the crowd like made me up my game another level, or I felt seen, or I felt like it just hit different when like I was performing in front of my own. So like moments like that are like the moments that I hold on to, and the moments like I'm most proud of this year.
Sweet. We could continue to talk about this all show long, very, very easily, because I was gonna actually let me just say this real quick. Actually, what I've loved about what wrestlings have done, you've everything that you've done is literally about your ethos. Down to Wrestling's House is kind of like, those that haven't watched wrestling in ages, if they catch that show, they'll see an old match that they probably would have watched, or reminisce about old wrestlers and stuff like that. Obviously, like the gaming stuff that you've done, it's bringing people into different atmospheres and all the rest of it. And then, NK, as you said, man, that last story that you gave is literally the whole purpose of what you do. Everyone kind of gravitated towards each other, became this one community when that wasn't necessarily the agenda when you were going there. You know what I mean? It kind of just happened that way, and it still worked out the way it needed to. So hats off to you guys all the time with what you're doing. Now, to get into what we're here for, or the next stage of what we're here for, we're looking at 2022. I've got a few categories that I asked the guys to look into, give me their opinions on. I'm going to hit it right on, just go in on the ground running straight away with this one. I'll go to Mex first, actually, with this one. Your favorite black wrestler, male wrestler for 2022, who is it? Don't tell me why just yet, but who is it?
My favorite, as opposed to the best, well, I would probably argue he's been up there. Both. Carmelo Hayes.
Woo. Okay. Gerard?
I'm actually torn. I don't know if I can give two, but I'm torn. I'm torn between Carmelo Hayes and Bobby Lashley.
Nice. NK, I'm gonna say this out. I told NK to probably look at a little bit more of the AEW. I know that's his thing. That those are his people. So NK, is it someone in AEW, or have you got something else?
Yeah, someone in AEW.
Go for it.
Swerve Strickland. That's my guy. Yeah.
Okay, so my one is Carmelo as well. So we've got three guys that are saying Carmelo. Bobby Lashley is definitely up there as well. But Gerard, give me your reasoning as to why Carmelo.
So Carmelo, I think, did the thing that nobody expected anybody to do. When NXT went to 2.0, everybody wanted it to be developmental. And he was kind of the sore thumb. He was the one guy who stuck out, who was not the champion. He was the North American champion, made that title actually more important than the NXT championship. We tuned in to watch him. We didn't tune in to watch Braun or anybody else. And so while Braun, and this is the odd part, Braun represented developmental, Carmelo did not.
Right.
And so and he helped us through that 2.0 era. And certainly watching what has happened even in Raw and SmackDown and things like that, who was smoother than Carmelo? Who had bigger matches in terms of in-ring content than Carmelo Hayes? So yeah, that's why he would get my vote.
Mex, anything to add to that when it comes to Carmelo Hayes?
I mean, he's just been bloody brilliant, hasn't he? Like he's also had the job of almost bringing Trick Williams along as well, and they've been a fantastic double act. It's like Gerard said, I don't think anyone anticipated him to be like this good so soon on what was meant to be a developmental product when they rebranded it. He was the shining star. The North American Championship was the A title, like he said. The title was him, like to the point where when he never had it, he went back and won it. And now it's almost with this story with Wesley. You can see he's done with it now. And it's, whatever they're going to find for him to do until they move him up, because that's got to be imminent. He is head and shoulders above everything happening from a male perspective down there in NXT. Yeah, I just don't think they anticipated for this growth, like how good he has been at all. So yeah, that's why he's my choice.
NK, we'll go to you on Swerve. We'll come back to Carmelo and the rest of it. So why Swerve?
I think there's an interesting parallel that's been made between like Swerve, like you guys mentioned Carmelo, because Carmelo is somebody you'd argue who's elevated their title, the North American Championship. Swerve also held the same title, but it wasn't to the same effect. And you could almost argue that he was kind of hampered by the title. That his title reign didn't go to the heights of somebody like a Carmelo's did. And coming into AEW, the question was, okay, we see Swerve has potential, but on like the bigger platforms, we haven't seen him, come into his own and really like be himself. There was elements of that hit roll, but we, as a solo act, we never really saw it. And I won't lie, the first couple, maybe month and a bit of AEW was a bit like rough, but once he came into his own, he was undeniable. The charisma on screen was just like he became like one of like the must-see acts on the show, and people were like questioning the Swerve and Our Glory partnership. I think that partnership maybe didn't do the best for Keith Lee, but them two as a tag team were, first of all, had a very good reign, and second of all, Swerve's profile was much higher this year than it's probably ever been. And
Facts.
Right. he's somebody on AEW that for sure, like we always speak about who's going to be the star. We've thrown in different guys here and there, and Swerve said no, like there is no conversation. Like I am a star. Like if I get booked poorly, that's on the booking. That's got nothing to do with my in-ring ability. That's got nothing to do with my presence.
Right.
Everything I need to do, I'm doing right now. And I'm showing the people why, like, I'm that person.
Definitely. NK, here's a question as well. With Swerve, you have the argument. Obviously, now you've got this undeniable presence, his whole demeanor, what he does in the ring. He's been able to show that from day one, thankfully. Do you see AEW, elevating him further? Or is there someone else who may come through? So my thinking is it Ricky Starks or is it Swerve? I guess that's what the question is. Is it Ricky Starks or is it Swerve who are going to be pushed up there? Whether it be first or who gets pushed higher, I'm not sure. But out of the two, who do you see kind of moving forward to higher heights?
Okay, right now we know for a fact that Ricky Starks is probably going to be the next person to challenge for the title. We know that for a fact. Right. He's going to win the title. No, we're very much established. He's not going to win. It's MJ's first title defense. He's not going to win.
Right.
I would say, out of what I've seen, it's Swerve. If you look at their trajectory, Ricky Starks, it's only maybe now that he's gaining momentum, and you could argue that Swerve's been on TV way more consistently. Swerve's been in bigger programs more consistently. And Ricky Starks has been in the company longer. And Ricky Starks, Swerve's heading into a big program with Keith Lee. Starks, the complaint about Starks that we've rightfully had is he's on TV, he's off again. He's on, he's off. Swerve, from when the ball got rolling, he's always been on. So based on what I see right now, I see the ceiling for Swerve being higher because the booking's been more consistent with him.
Okay.
I just wanted to add to Swerve. Yeah, Swerve has been the best signing for AEW this year. They haven't made obviously all those kind of high-profile signings like they did in 2021.
True.
This is kind of, and I don't want to say it like this, like best of the rest. I guess who was available this year round, but just off memory, unless you're talking to me about a Brody King, unless you're talking to me about Wheeler Utah, no one has been better than Swerve. Those are the only other two names I'm willing to, hear an argument on. They still signed a lot of names this year. Like Roosh came in this year and he's been very good. Samoa Joe, Jeff Hardy, we know what happened with him, and so on and so on. Like there's been at least probably about 20 signings this year. But Swerve and how they've used him and everything, it's just been head and shoulders above everyone else.
We've seen with Swerve, of the last few months, maybe we've seen a lot of this stuff where they're bringing in, guys from hip hop rappers, stuff like that. Gerard, how do you kind of see this whole thing? Is it a good thing? Has it helped Swerve? Has it been part of, Swerve's rise? How do you see this whole thing with AEW and hip hop?
Well, I think AEW has to be careful in how they use hip hop. The thing about using hip hop is it needs to be organic. It needs to really make a lot of sense. And when you bring the people on, they have to have a passion for this as well. So to me, the only hip hop move that really made sense was having Rick Ross, who Rick Ross was just money. He was money. But the thing is, Swerve doesn't need anyone from mainstream hip hop to validate him. He really doesn't. He is an artist in and of himself. He's an incredible talent on screen and off, and one could make the argument that the reason we loved Swerve in our glory had everything to do with Swerve. Yes, we like Keith Lee. Keith Lee was the heavy, but Swerve was the personality. We were all asking, when is Swerve going to turn on Keith Lee? Not when is Keith Lee going to turn on Swerve, right? So it's always been about the Swerve element. I just think that, like, for instance, for every time you have a great move like a Rick Ross, or even when Scrappy showed up, you also end up having, oh gosh, what's her name? Trina, right? Yeah. Trina, which you're like, okay, this should turn into something. And it was just like, what? West Side Gun, God bless his heart, he wants to be recognized. But it's just kind of like, huh? So it needs to be things that really make sense if they're going to make it something that really, really works.
Yeah. Going back to Carmelo, Gerard, you mentioned, the other person you had in mind was Bobby Lashley.
Yes.
Bobby Lashley had an amazing year, undeniable. Sure done some great things. He's still on the trajectory, going up and up, and obviously, he's had he had a rematch with Brock, all that kind of stuff. Why do you think Carmelo tips it over Lashley?
I think Carmelo tips it over Lashley because I think Carmelo had a larger hill to climb. Carmelo, again, was in a space that was developmental, where he was expected to be developmental, and he was the star. Now, here's the flip side. Not Brock. I have Brock on my head because Bobby Lashley beat Brock Lesnar for the WWE title this year at the Royal Rumble. Major win. But I think what happened to Lashley is Lashley kind of had high highs and low lows, right? Yeah. So you have the high of winning the title at the Royal Rumble, and then you have the low of losing it at the Elimination Chamber without even ever really being in the match, right? He got injured. He came back and he put the loss on Omos. Then he ends up in a program with a couple of months with Omos, all of these types of things. Then at some point he becomes the U.S. champion and becomes a fan favorite in the process. We still don't really know how. Again, loses the U.S. title because of Brock Lesnar, and then ends up trouncing Brock Lesnar at Crown Jewel and somehow taking an L. So I think it was the highs and lows for Lashley, to me, that gave Carmelo the edge a bit. Was Lashley in higher profile matches? Absolutely. Did Lashley have a relatively consistent year in terms of being at the top of the card? For the most part, except for that, weird program with Omos, Carmelo was always at the top of the card. Carmelo was the one guy you could think about this. When Braun Breaker was champion, you still had Carmelo ending the show and ending the pay-per-views and in the matches that we talked about on the premium live events. So to me, that's why I would give Carmelo the edge over Bobby Lashley.
I see
Also,
NK was like,
Yeah,
sir,
he's like, wait.
yeah, go for it.
in regards to Bobby Lashley, I feel like John said, it's very high highs and like kind of low lows. I would argue his year, maybe the last year was the year that he beat Drew at WrestleMania. Was that
Yes.
the correct year?
Right.
Mhm.
I say that year was much stronger than this year.
I agree.
And the thing about, you mentioned the Brock match, and the Brock match, like for in the wrestling group chat, I have a strong opinions about that match. I feel like the match itself, regardless of the quality, him beating Brock in the manner he did, yes, he won the title, but I felt it did him kind of a disservice. Having Roman pick up the title he just won and throw it.
Yeah.
It makes a statement about where they viewed you. Regardless of the regardless of, yes, you are champion, but make no mistake about it, you are secondary to Roman, and you are secondary to these guys, and that's where you will be, because and that's what I felt. I felt like with Lashley, he was put in prominent positions, but I felt like they could have, if they wanted to, they really could have put like the rocket behind Lashley and establish him as, you know what, he's our guy. He doesn't have to beat Brock clean. He could have beat Brock by nefarious means, maybe use the chair, but at least he has agency of his own win. The fact that, you know, it took Roman outside party for him to pin Brock, then that said outside party throws the title he just worked blood and tears for. It's like it doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth. But I don't watch NXT, but from what I've seen, what I've heard from you guys and what I've seen, Carmelo's very much been a fighting champ. He's very much been somebody who week in, week out, not only delivers on major promos, sometimes steals the show with his matches. He's been very much a focal point of the product, and nobody's really had the correct me if I'm wrong, nobody's really undermined him in a way that makes him look like lesser than. And that's kind of my argument against Bobby. It's like there's been moments where he's kind of been undermined.
The one thing I'll quickly add on the Bobby thing is as brilliant as he looks presentation wise, and if you had someone just watch the product and you see him and they'll think, oh, like, cool, blimey, like look at the size of him and all of that kind of stuff, right? And then you have to then tell that person, this isn't the top guy. Like he's not even the second guy. And if he could be arguably a third guy, how much notches down from the second guy he is? Like they've done so much good work with him over the last 2 years in terms of making him seem like a threat and all of that, giving him WWE title, US title, all that kind of stuff. But the gulf still remains, and I think that's a massive issue.
Big issue. I believe the same thing. I mean, we say that type of thing quite often when we talk about Bobby Lashley on the show. It's always the same thing. There's Roman, there's Brock. You can argue between those two of those, and then there's this massive gap, and then there's Lashley. And even then, you still can start arguing now. There's Seth Rollins, there's Cody Rhodes,
exactly.
Austin Theory's coming up, so and so. Bray's back, all the rest of it. And I guess he is now the. If Roman and Brock are S tier, to use the tier rankings, here we go. You know, it feels like Lashley is probably like C. Yeah, you know what I mean, B or C. It's kind of like, you know, what are we doing with this guy? Yes, they've kind of kept him safe, you know, kept him looking strong, all the rest of it quite consistently. Yes, we had this whole thing with Omos, which was just a little bit weird. But apart from that, he's been on a kind of like this consistent journey, but at the same time, it never feels as though it's gone any higher. And I think that's the real issue here when it comes to Lashley.
Even something like we just had Clash of the Castle here, and obviously you understand that was for Drew and that was in England, but like even just giving Drew a platform that big to essentially lose to Roman, but like he had a coronation, he had a coming out party, and they made him look. At least if you're not going to position Lashley as that, have him have like a moment where, no, this is Lashley's coronation. This is the event centered around Lashley. Because, yes, Clash of the Castle, for those, I call it vignette tax, whether it was the video packages or what, like they made you believe for a second. Could you do it? because of like the amount of effort they put behind. With Lashley,
Right.
it's like, well, if he does it, someone's got to get involved. He's not going to do it by himself. There's no way Lashley's beating Brock by himself, or Lashley's beating Roman, but there's no way. And that's the issue I have with Lashley.
Yeah.
It's not with him. It's just more so like I know what he could be.
Yep.
And he's just shy of it every time.
Very, very true. Moving on to the next one. The next one is the best female. Gerard, who have you picked for your best female?
Well, I suppose we can argue only two people, right? If we're looking at the whole year. And so I got to give it to Bianca Belair. I don't know if you want us to give reasons, but I'll start with Bianca Belair. It seems kind of obvious, but if I need to give reasons, I certainly can.
Mine is Bianca as well. Mex, yours? Bianca. NK, what's yours?
I know you want me to be the AW guy, but it has to be Bianca. Like, it has to be like as like. Yes, the obvious pick would be Jade in AEW. And she's like, listen, she's had a great year. The fact that being the first TBS champion, she was crowned this year. Like, this is a great introduction to wrestling in terms of like you can't have a better introduction. But if we're talking about the best, it's Bianca. Like, it's Bianca. Bianca has cemented herself as like one of the best women's wrestlers in the world, let alone the company. I know we had our disagreements about the PWI, but
we're gonna get into that in a second.
But the fact that she's like again regarded as number one or the fact that there's even a conversation, an ongoing discussion about where she's positioned, just shows how much of a talent she is. So, like, for me, it's undisputed. It's Bianca Belair.
Mex, for you, what has... I mean, I'm going to ask a question that's quite obvious, but for you, what has it been about Bianca's 2022 that just has made her undeniable, unreachable, and all the rest of the ons you can think of?
Within WWE specifically, it's the matches. Her match quality is insane for someone that has been wrestling for 5-ish years or so. Like she's got so much better. The reliance of, obviously she's still wrestling like absolute generals that she's being put up against. She's not really wrestling, I guess, the younger half of the roster or less experienced of the roster because she's champion. But matches, the 2 matches she had with Bayley, the WrestleMania match she had with Becky, I didn't think I would see a better match than the Sasha Banks one the year before at WrestleMania, and they've done a really good job.
For real.
She's just the character stuff. Everyone knows I'm still like, oh, come on, we need to do more there. Week to week booking on TV, yes. But once it's big match time, like, honestly, like, she's producing some brilliant stuff. Hence why she's in the conversation for PWI amongst names that, the majority of us, if we're not watching week to week, we can only judge, okay, this was a brilliant match by so and so. Like, she's there on that alone, let alone this long title reign. So, yeah. I'll throw my hat in the ring in terms of just her match quality alone is incredible.
Gerard, NK touched on the PWI Women's 150 that came out a few weeks back. We saw Bianca Belair reach number 2. NK, remind me of the lady's name who was number 1?
Shuri.
Okay. So obviously the fanfare went crazy. It all went mad on Twitter and all the rest of it. How in the world is Bianca number 2? Who is Shuri? Blah, 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 blah. All the rest of it. How did you react to seeing that list, first of all?
Well, when I saw the list, I recognized something at play. And the something at play was that PWI was very interested in bringing about awareness to the general public of Stardom. And so that's why they had 4 wrestlers from Stardom in this top 10. That's not taking anything away from Stardom, because obviously I think it did what it was supposed to do. It got a lot of people talking, going, who is Shuri? who are these people? Let me go and do some research. And then in doing research, you go, wow, they're really good. You know what I mean? In terms of best in the world, the problem, if there is one, is if it's going to be best in the world, most of the people should know about them, right? It's kind of what makes you best in the world. There's a degree of awareness. Now, really good, of course. Best, I mean, and again, in the wrestling world, we're talking about a lot of factors. We're not just talking about what you do in ring. And so when you look at the 2022 for Bianca, you know, all that she did from WrestleMania, you know, every major pay-per-view, she was, I mean, head and shoulders above anybody else. I mean, you know, think about the people she fought, the stages she was on, and then the fact that they took her to the mainstream. You know, she signed with WME. You know, she's got a reality series coming on Hulu in 2023. Like, these are all things. And then I was having a conversation on WWT last night. We were talking about the Ronda Rousey effect and the whole idea that Rousey should be much further along than she is. And my whole thing was WWE signed her basically to be the women's face of the company. And the women's face of the company is Bianca, not Ronda. They're sending Bianca to go do the interviews. They're sending Bianca to go do the publicity, all of those kinds of things. So for me, I think that, and it's taking nothing away from Shuri or any of the other amazing women in Stardom, it is to say that I believe PWI did that to strictly bring awareness to Stardom, because Bianca was number one in 2021 and she had a better 2022 than 2021.
That's a good argument. NK, here's the question for you then. Do you think that PWI had an agenda, or do you feel as though Shuri actually should have been number one?
So I remember the interview you guys did. Remember the gentleman's name from PWI?
Kevin.
Kevin. Yeah.
Kevin. I think you had the interview at last year's.
Yeah, that's right.
Last year. And I remember watching, and I remember he said that the debate between Bianca and Utami, who was Stardom champ last year, was very close. It was down to the wire. It was very close. So that already informed me that, okay, that these guys are paying attention to Stardom. And I totally understand the visibility argument. Bianca's more visible. However, I feel like the fact that Stardom's even in the conversation now is a testament to how good Shuri was. And it's a testament to the fact that Stardom as a promotion is doing a lot of good things. Because if you compare Stardom to WWE, Stardom was founded in like 2012. And Stardom have been around for a long time. But like, as somebody who's been keeping up with the Japanese scene, Stardom over the past year has seen like a real growth and increase in fandom compared to even 2 years ago. The fact that we on this platform can now say Stardom and people have a rough idea of what it is shows the company's growth. So I feel like you could say there was an effort to applaud the work that these women have done. And yes, Stardom is nowhere near like the level of an AEW or WWE within the Impact Wrestling. However, the fact that the company has grown and these matches have been recognized like amongst wider fans in the community is why Shuri is up there, is why that, you know, for a company so small, she's been able to increase their following. And Stardom, like, it's going to be an ongoing thing where Stardom's going to be a part of these lists for a longer period of time, because now Stardom have the working relationship with New Japan. And, you know, AEW's Forbidden Door 2, Tony Khan has spoken about potentially working with Stardom, and maybe these elevated platforms will allow again Stardom to again grow in fan base. So like I feel like for those reasons, and then we talk about things that are happening in ring, and no disrespect to Bianca, but Shuri, that girl can wrestle.
Yeah, Shuri's dope. She's dope.
Yeah, so I feel like just in terms of the same way you're talking about Bianca increasing exposure for the mainstream fan, Shuri's increasing exposure to a lesser audience, but she's increasing exposure amongst wrestling fans in general. And that's why I feel like her position at number one was warranted.
Just to add to that, you were talking about the growth, like these men in PWI have been watching Stardom.
Right.
These guys have been on these lists, innit? But Kairi Sane has been a massive catalyst since she's went back to Japan to growing just women's Japanese wrestling. And now obviously she's the IWGP Women's Champion. So we're gonna see a lot more of this, and it's gonna frustrate people next year. We can put money on it, but
next year is gonna be worse.
Yeah, next year might even be worse, 100%.
But
There might not be
to
any
that
like
point,
top 3 American women in there at all.
Which is possible. And it reminds me of, 2016, 2017, when we really started to see the international boom of New Japan. And they started including them on the list. But what also happened at the same time was people were like, okay, where can I see them? In JPW World. Okay. And so then that started becoming a much more common part of the conversation. So I think if people can access Stardom on a regular basis, then that's going to open their eyes, and they can then be able to say, oh, okay, I understand why Shuri's there. I understand why this one's there. And with Kairi Sane in the picture, I think that's going to really upset the apple cart for 2023.
Right, for sure. I mean, for me, it's this thing where, as you said, Gerard, when they started adding New Japan guys, and you had guys like Tanahashi and all these other people winning the list and all that, or top of the list and stuff like that, it made a difference. And I think it's the same thing with Stardom. It's going to happen. And here's the other thing to remember is that this is also a women's list. This isn't wrestling in general, and we're just going to add a few women. This is a women's list. When you really think about the women's promotions a lot across the world, there isn't anyone that's bigger than Stardom. There's not one promotion. You've got a few that are trying to come through, and Thunder Rosa's got a thing going on, and there's been others about Shine and some of those
Shimmer and Women's Wrestling Army and a few others.
Yeah. Pro Wrestling Eve here in the UK. They've got a reputation for sure, but at the same time, you're not talking about those companies. You know what I mean? Stardom is the only all women's promotion that people talk about in such a high regard, or the most popular one, or the rest of it. So it makes sense that for a women's only list, that these ladies are thrust in there, and it's kind of viewed as, or I don't know if they view it as the same thing. I'm guessing they do, but viewed almost the same as the WWE women's division. They're on, they're putting them on the same level. We're not doing that because we don't see them. But if you were to watch it, you get why they do. And I think that's what makes a difference here.
Yeah, and just one more point as well. Like, we've spoken about, obviously, someone like Sasha Banks, right? And now, like, the conversation, if you were to ask, if this Sasha Banks incident was happening maybe a year or two ago, it'd be WWE or AEW. And I'm not, the Stardom thing is, yes, it's delving into fantasy. But the fact that she's, lit the fire by posting her versus Kairi using a Stardom background, the fact that there's online discourse about, Sasha would kill it in Japan, and there's a lot, like the idea has a lot more credence than it did a couple years ago. Speaks to the testament, or speaks to the growth of the company, and speaks to like what the women in that company are doing in terms of to garner, for people to even entertain the idea of Sasha Banks, somebody who's main event in WrestleMania, even working there and even working with the women there.
Let's move on to the next category. It might end up being the last one. So I'm gonna go with your most improved or one to watch black wrestler of 2022, or maybe one to watch in 2023. NK, I'm gonna go with you first on this one. Actually, tell me who and tell me why.
This one doesn't wrestle for any of the major promotions, but I feel like I must.
No problem.
I got to witness, BMX got to witness one of the best matches of the year. This entire year. Dave Meltzer 5-star rated, Wrestling's 10-star, whatever. Like, this match is like going to be in every match of the year discussion. And this guy has gone on to wrestle for GCW. He's going to be at PWG's Bowler. This guy is none
Mm.
other than Britain's own, Nigeria's own Michael Oku.
Come on.
Michael Oku is going like the trajectory he's on. Michael Oku's always been like a great wrestler, but he's always been kind of like the UK's best kept secret.
Yeah.
He's always been like, if you know, you know. And you know, the match he had with Will doesn't like, I can't praise it enough. Like I was there live in person. The vlog is up there. Literally one of the best matches, the best match I've seen live, and one of the best matches of the year, period. And just like what that match has done for him, and the fact that he's gone onto other platforms. You know, he was at GCW's For the Culture, he was at PWG's Bowler, he was at New Japan's Royal Quest. He is somebody to watch out for, and you know, he's like an incredibly talented wrestler, and I feel like just the world isn't ready for what this guy is about to do. So yeah, Michael Oku for me is the one to watch. Like he's definitely something to keep your eye on.
Let me jump in real quick. So like Michael Oku, you know, as you guys know, obviously I've been doing this, you know, BWA page for a while now, at least 5 years. And Michael Oku was literally, if not Roy Johnson, Michael Oku was probably the first British wrestler that I thought, right, he needs to go to the big time, or he's got the potential to go to the big time. So I've just seen this rise, consistent rise. This year has been something different. Until him going to US and wrestling in the US or whatever, I didn't see his year being better than he had last year when he beat, or was it 2 years ago, when he beat Pac twice and was only one of four or three other people who beat Pac. The others are Chris Jericho, John Moxley, Kenny Omega.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
How do you have a better year than that? Okay, let's have a 5-star match with Will Ospreay. There you go. And that's what he's done. And you know, as NK said, he's then, you know, he went to America. I think it was over the summer. I don't think it was as high profile as I probably would have wanted it to be, but at the same time, it was still a step in the right direction. Like I can see, you know, him having that, you know, a more bigger impact on the US when it comes to PWG's Bowler as well. I mean, sky's the limit. You know, he's got a lot of time to do what he needs to do, and you know, but he's got the right attributes. He's got the right people behind him. I mean, to have someone like Will Ospreay fighting your corner right now, where Will Ospreay is himself, is crazy. Mex, I'm gonna go to you. Who was your one to watch or most improved? Who you got?
This may be a bit of a boring choice, but I'm picking Jade Cargill. Obviously she's come a long way with the in-ring work and stuff like that. But for me, it's the star power that I'm in awe every time I see her. Like, and I'm just thinking, like, AEW hit a gold mine here. Like, like she has come from literal like nothingness in terms of wrestling as a background, and they're putting her in front of all the right people in all the right spaces. She is the crossover person for the culture, as she likes to say. She's the crossover person just for mainstream things, in my opinion. I mean, we often see Britt Baker going to do press stuff maybe alongside Tony Khan and other people alongside. Jade Cargill is like being sent out into the wilderness on her own to fly the flag for this company, and she does a fantastic job every single time. I mean, you can draw up a calendar. She ain't gonna be doing this wrestling thing for long. She is not gonna be doing this thing for long. She's already putting her hat out there for acting roles. The same kind of thing that Bianca's got in terms of representation. She probably already has, to be completely fair. And she just wants to, you know, do wrestling for a bit longer to then take a step into the mainstream and stuff like that. So yeah, as good as her wrestling is coming along, and you know, we want to see more. We want to see her more opportunities on TV as a wrestler, just as a star within this industry. Yeah, she's amazing. She's had a really good year.
An undeniable year, and again, it's no surprise really that you chose Jade Cargill, because she was like our number 2 when it comes to the best female. And given her lack of experience in terms of in the wrestling ring, you know, she's the most improved, and I think she may even be the most improved next year, because with what she is expected or required to do to stay where she is, she's gonna have to improve to a level that, you know, for next year to stay there. So it makes sense Jade's there. I'm gonna go with my one real quick. My one is another UK guy. For me, this is more of a one to watch.
Hope you say who I think you're gonna say.
I think I will. I really think I will, because I think you guys are thinking the same thing. But I'm gonna say Leon Slater. This guy is what I think he's still only 19, something like that.
Less than.
I think he's like 70.
He's 17.
Oh god, yeah.
It's
Wow.
crazy. Leon Slater. Let's give Gerard a bit of bit of education on Leon Slater. So Leon Slater is 17. This year he has faced Speedball Mike Bailey. Who else has he wrestled this year? There's a few others, but it's like this guy is on every card consistently. Yeah. He's now another one actually, who is being backed by Will Ospreay. He was in, or has it happened already? I can't remember, the Super J Cup.
Yeah, it's happened already.
Yeah, so he was in the Super J Cup as well. This guy moves like it's great to know this guy is 17, to see him move the way he does, and he's still innovative as well. It's almost like a young what's his name? My British guy. How I've forgotten his name.
Geordie Fleisch.
Geordie Fleisch. He's like a young. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I've seen gifs made about Leon Slater already. Right. Like in these, he does a swanton 450.
Yep.
I know. Yeah.
As in, picture your body shape coming off the top rope as a swanton.
Yeah.
And then boom, like
wow.
It's ridiculous. Like it's a sight to behold.
Wow. I have to find video on him. I absolutely have to see him.
He's there with, like we're saying, Progress. He's in with Progress. He's in with Rev Pro. All the top promotions, like highly sought after already. He will probably be in the States for WrestleMania weekend. Yeah, he's absolutely clear and still, like we're saying, 17 years old.
Wow. Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
For sure. Wow. So Leon Slater for me is definitely the most improved. Definitely the one to watch in 2023. Gerard, let's go with yours. Just to finish everything off, who have you got as your most improved or one to watch?
So this is going to be funny. I have a male and a female. On the male side, his name is Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight, if you have not seen NK, there you go. So Kevin Knight is the only African American to be accepted into the New Japan Dojo.
Yep.
So there's a lot to be said for that.
Oh my man. Okay, yeah.
Yes. Kevin Knight. He's incredible. I've had the opportunity to call some of his matches at Battle Slam. This guy has got hops. I mean, there's a video going around right now of him teaming with Kushida and this drop kick that he does with a guy sitting on somebody's shoulder, and he drop kicks him literally from the mat to the top of his head. It's unbelievable. This guy is incredible. And it seems as though he's graduated officially from the dojo, because now he actually gets to wear some other colors besides black. This guy is somebody to watch. Kevin Knight. And the other person I'm mentioning is Queen Aminata. She is a star. Star. She's ended up on AEW doing dark and things like that, but she's been all over independent wrestling, Battle Slam, Women's Wrestling Army. She's the first female, she's the first women's champion for all Caribbean wrestling. She is special. She has presence. She is just incredible. I'm telling you, 2023, if both of them can stay away from injuries, the world will be talking about Kevin Knight and Queen Aminata. And Aminata is actually heading to Japan this weekend for a big tournament as well. So she's literally worldwide.
Wow. NK, you got excited when you heard Kevin Knight, of course. I'm actually surprised you didn't mention his name.
I am too.
This category.
It slipped my mind. It really did slip my mind.
Of our LA Dojo graduates.
Yes.
Give me your opinion on him and how you've seen his year, actually.
I would ridiculous athleticism. Like Shelton Benjamin level, just like athlete.
Yes.
Like scary athletic. I saw the clip of him and Kushida. There was another spot where like he was running towards the corner, the rope, and he literally jumps on it, falls off, and then jumps back on again. Like this guy is as an athlete, a freak of nature. And I feel like because to graduate, there's a very small group of people who even graduate from the LA Dojo. I think it's probably like close less than 10 that have graduated from the LA Dojo. And yet, like John says, he's the first African American there, but he is a part of an elite class of people have graduated. And you know, the fact that he's going, at least for the tournament, he's going by the moniker Jetfly. Kevin Knight, that should tell you a bit about him. But the fact that he's able to he's graduated, he's able to come into himself. Listen, this guy, I hope to see him on the independents, because New Japan system, New Japan takes a while for guys to graduate to the top. But what the New Japan system does allow is for people to go outwards. I want this guy to be booked and busy. This guy is honestly money. Like once you see him perform, it's like he's undeniable. He's a once in a lifetime athlete. And I mean that with no hyperbole. He's a tremendous athlete.
Whoa, guys. On that note, we've come to the end of our 100th show. Thank you, Gerard NK, for being here with us. Thank you, Mex, for dealing with me 100 times. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how I do it with myself. It's been amazing. NK, where can people find you on Twitter? Are you on Instagram? I can't even remember, but you know. You can find me on Twitter at NK Preach. Find me on Twitter at NK Grammars. But most importantly, follow Wrestlings on Twitter. It's Wrestlings on all social media platforms. We are on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, whatever. But yeah, follow Wrestlings. Gerard, we know you already, but give us your places we can follow as well.
Yes, you can follow me at Bonafide on all of the social media platforms. Also doing, of course, great commentary work with Southern Honor Wrestling, Battle Slam, Championship District Wrestling. The show from Championship District Wrestling should hit this week. We just did it Sunday, and we had a very interesting appearance from someone who likes to scissor. That's all I can say. Someone who likes to scissor showed up, and it was amazing. So yeah, so some really, really cool things are going down. So again, follow at Bonafide.
Mex, give us your good stuff, where people can follow you. Is there anything you got coming up at the moment? What's going on?
WrestleManiac UK, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And if it's not there on YouTube as well, if it's not there, then like NK said earlier, catch us on Wrestlings, all those usual places too.
Yeah, man. I think I'm gonna follow Mex on TikTok. I want to see him doing a Beyonce dance in the coffee.
I never said I dance on TikTok. No, sir. Not me.
Guys, this has been our show. Thank you as always for joining us. Whether you're joining us live, watching later on, or listening on Affinity Extra. Guys, we will see you again next time. 101.
See you later.